Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I'm Carter, 30 years old, gainfully employed in tech sales, owner of a functioning espresso machine, 2 indoor plants I haven't killed yet, and up until 2 weeks ago, I thought I was engaged to someone who understood basic relationship boundaries. Emily and I have been together for 5 years, engaged for 8 months, living together for 2.5. I genuinely thought we had our shit figured out. Like, we weren't perfect, but we were that couple. Netflix passwords shared, inside jokes about our neighbors, arguing over IKEA assembly instructions without actually killing each other. Functional. Solid. Now, quick background on us. I make decent money. Nothing flashy, no private jets or 2 a.m. bottle service, but enough to cover rent, bills, date nights, and that cursed Peloton we used religiously for, 3 weeks. Emily works in marketing, but her company's been struggling lately. Hours cut, pay slashed. I've been covering most of our expenses this past year, which, honestly, didn't bother me. When you're planning to marry someone, you assume you'll take turns carrying the weight, right? That's just how it works. Sometimes you're the horse, sometimes you're the wagon. I was fine being the horse. So, 2 weeks ago, Emily comes home from work and she's glowing. Not just smiling, glowing. Like someone just told her she won the damn lottery or Ryan Gosling winked at her in traffic. She's practically bouncing around the kitchen while I'm making dinner, opening drawers like she doesn't remember where the silverware is. Now, mind you, she'd been acting a little off the week before. Always on her phone, giggling at messages she wouldn't let me see. I figured maybe she was planning something for my birthday next month. Maybe she found that watch I hinted at. You know, the nice one I definitely can't afford but mentioned anyway, like a dumb little Hope gremlin. But nope, not even close. Turns out, the thing making her skip around the kitchen like she just won a trip to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory was a trip with Roman. Yes, Roman, her ex, the human business card, the guy she dated for 3 years right before me. Tall, tan, teeth like a Colgate commercial, drives a BMW like it's a personality trait, works in real estate because of course he does. He's one of those guys who still wears sunglasses indoors and calls everyone bro, you know the type. So, apparently, Roman's company does this massive sales contest every quarter, and this time the grand prize was a 5-day trip to Cabo. All expenses paid. Oceanfront suite. Unlimited everything. Probably comes with a butler named Philippe who hands you a margarita before you can even say hola. Roman wins. Surprise, surprise. But plot twist. His girlfriend dumped him last month. Sad little real estate king with no queen to bring. So naturally, the first person who comes to mind to invite is my fiancé, my actual betrothed. The woman currently picking basil out of the fridge while telling me this like she's announcing we're out of oat milk. She's scrolling through Roman's messages on her phone, showing me pictures of the resort. Look, she says, flipping her screen toward me. They have these infinity pools that just look out over the ocean. Isn't that wild? I'm holding a spatula, trying not to black out. And the weather's supposed to be, perfect this week. She adds, like we're talking about a brunch reservation, not a romantic beach vacation with a guy she used to make out with in hot tubs. I blink at her. Wait, what is this? She laughs. Roman invited me to go with him to Cabo. Crazy, right? He had no one else to take. Ah, yes, I say. The logical choice, your ex. She nods. Well, we're still friends. And it's totally just as friends. Meanwhile, I'm mentally Googling how to fry feelings on a skillet because I'm currently sautéing betrayal next to the garlic butter asparagus. And the whole time, she's still talking about ocean views and poolside cocktails, like this is a TED Talk on post-breakup friendship benefits. I'm just standing there, spatula in hand, jaw halfway to the floor, thinking, is this actually happening right now? So I ask her, very calmly, mind you, while trying not to throw the spatula through a window, if she's seriously considering going on a romantic, oceanfront, all-inclusive, sunset happy hour vacation with her ex-boyfriend. And she looks at me like I just asked if water is wet. Of course I'm considering it, she says. Like I'm the crazy one. Like she's got 2 plane tickets to Cabo and a suitcase full of rational decisions. It's a free trip to Cabo, Carter. Why wouldn't I want to go? Now, I'm no relationship therapist, but I'm pretty sure the phrase, because you're engaged to someone who isn't Roman, is a good starting point. So I say, Emily, any sane person would see a problem with their fiancé jetting off on a 5-day romantic getaway with their ex. And that's when she hits me with the greatest hits album. You're being insecure. You're being controlling. Roman's just being nice. They're totally over each other. It's not a big deal. And my personal favorite, you should trust me more. Healthy relationships don't involve policing your partner's friendships. Okay, sure. You know what else healthy relationships don't include? Your fiancé playing the honeymoon sweepstakes with a guy who once called you bro through clenched teeth. I try, again, to explain that this isn't about trust. It's about judgment, respect, boundaries, the absolute bare minimum required for two people to get legally and emotionally tethered for life. Because honestly, what kind of person even thinks this is okay? What kind of person doesn't immediately go, huh? Maybe my fiancé wouldn't love the idea of me sipping cocktails with the guy who used to see me naked on Tuesdays and Thursdays? But instead of seeing the light, she doubles down. First defensive, then annoyed. Then she's full-blown angry, like I'm the one out here trying to sabotage her free tan and hotel robe fantasy. You're not being supportive, she snaps, as if my role in this relationship is to cheer her on while she repacks emotional baggage from 2018. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there calmly, because that's just who I am. Internally, I'm losing my entire goddamn mind. My organs are staging a mutiny. My brain is drafting its resignation letter. We're supposed to be planning a wedding, picking napkins, arguing about who sits next to Aunt Karen. But instead, she's auditioning for the Real Housewives of Premarital Regret, Cabo edition. By the end of the night, we weren't really talking. She'd made it crystal clear. She was going to do whatever she wanted, and my feelings were just mildly inconvenient background noise. Like elevator music she couldn't turn off. Still, I went to bed. My bed. And she was relegated, by royal decree of a very fed-up me, to the guest bedroom. Now, you'd think after the Cabo debacle, she might accept a little couch exile with grace. You'd be wrong. So wrong it hurts. As I grabbed my pillow and stood in the hallway pointing toward the guest room like some kind of emotionally exhausted flight attendant, she blinked at me like I'd just slapped her with a tortilla. Wait, you're serious? She said. You're kicking me out of our bed? Our bed. I raised an eyebrow. Did we suddenly become a couple again in the last 10 minutes? Because 5 minutes ago you were emotionally packing for Cabo with your ex-boyfriend. It's just sleep, Carter, she snapped, arms crossed like a disrespected hotel guest. Are you seriously being this dramatic? Oh, I'm being dramatic? I laughed, already halfway back to calm out of pure pettiness. You're the one packing imaginary bikinis for a trip with Roman, the walking jawline, and acting like I'm the issue because I don't want to cuddle you tonight. You're punishing me, she said, her voice sharp, like she was suddenly the victim of consequences? No, Emily, I said. I'm creating boundaries. You remember those, right? From the TED Talk you gave me last night about healthy relationships. She scoffed. You're acting like I cheated on you. You don't have to cheat when you're emotionally pre-boarding a couple's vacation with your ex while your fiancé is cooking you dinner. That's a whole new category of betrayal. I can't believe you're being this petty. And I can't believe you still think you deserve the good pillows tonight. She huffed and stormed toward the guest room like it was some unfair exile, like I hadn't just listened to her passionately describe the drink options on a trip with the guy who used to refer to me as the tech nerd. Right before she slammed the door, she turned and snapped, You're going to regret acting like this. Great, I said. Put it in your Cabo journal. Door slam. Silence. Me? I flopped down on my bed, spread out like a starfish, and for the first time all week, I slept great. Next day's Wednesday. We've got my parents' 30th anniversary dinner that night. Big deal. My mom has been organizing it for months, like color-coded spreadsheets and everything. Full suburban gala vibes. Matching centerpieces and sentimental toasts. I figure, maybe being around family will put things in perspective for Emily. Remind her that we're supposed to be building something together. Like a life. A marriage. A shared Netflix queue. Instead, she uses it as an opportunity to publicly humiliate me. My entire family was coming out for this dinner. Parents, obviously, plus my older sister Aria and her husband Josiah, my younger brother Charles who made the 4-hour drive down from Jacksonville, and even my 78-year-old grandma, who braved the I-75 chaos from Tampa in her ancient Corolla with a bumper sticker that says, "Still hot," just in flash mode. This was supposed to be a celebration, a warm, fuzzy, wine-fueled night to honor my parents' 30 years of surviving each other. One of those, remember that night? Memories. Instead, it's the night Emily decided to stage her one-woman off-Broadway breakup prequel, live from my parents' dining room. From the moment we walked into the house, Emily was off. Normally, she's golden with my family. Knows how to work a room like she's running for PDA president. Helps my mom in the kitchen, fake laughs at my dad's same 10 stories. Makes grandma feel like she's still relevant in the digital age. But that night, silent, stiff, cold enough to chill the shrimp cocktail. During pre-dinner drinks, she barely said 2 words. Didn't touch the mini crab cakes my mom spent all afternoon making, which is practically a felony in our family. And she kept checking her phone under the table like she was waiting on an urgent message from Fiancé. I should have known something was brewing. I should have clocked that look on her face. The same one she gets when she's about to launch into a moral TED Talk disguised as casual dinner conversation. But I was too busy trying to enjoy myself. My dad was mid-story about how he and Mom eloped back in the 90s. Grandma was roasting everyone with laser precision. Charles was showing off photos of his new job like he'd just been cast in Mad Men. You know, normal family stuff. Then it happened. About halfway through dinner, just as I was cutting into what was honestly a disturbingly good roast beef, my mom started asking about our future plans. Totally standard stuff. So, she says with that knowing mom smile, any wedding updates? And then the follow-ups start. Where are you thinking of doing it? Have you set a date yet? Do you want kids? Normally I'd crack a joke. Emily would throw in a vague, we're still figuring it out. And we'd move on to Aria's latest obsession with essential oils or grandma's disdain for modern dating. But not this time. Nope. This time, Emily sets down her fork with the intensity of someone disarming a bomb. Lets out this giant, dramatic sigh. I mean, like theatrical sigh, Oscar-worthy, and suddenly, every sound in the room dies. And then she says, loud and crystal clear, why do some men always think they can dictate what their girlfriends do? I'm sorry, what? She says it like she's discussing the weather. Like she's not detonating a verbal grenade in the middle of a family celebration. Like this is just a normal segue from mashed potatoes to toxic gender dynamics. She continues, cutting into her roast beef like she's rehearsing for a cooking segment while delivering a feminist monologue. It's like they believe being in a relationship means owning someone. So exhausting dealing with guys who get threatened by the most basic social interactions. She takes a sip of wine, smiles. At me. Yeah, at me. Across the table. Like she's just cracked some universal truth, and I should be scribbling notes in gratitude. And she's not done. It's honestly pathetic how insecure some men get when their partner has any kind of independence, she says, casually dabbing the corner of her mouth with a napkin like she's discussing traffic patterns. Like, healthy relationships require trust, not constant paranoia about every friendship. And the whole time she's saying all this, she's looking directly, deadly, unwaveringly, spiritually, at me. Like she's narrating my obituary. Like I'm a cautionary tale in a BuzzFeed listicle titled, 25 Signs Your Fiancé's a Walking Red Flag. Like we're not sitting in front of my entire family during an anniversary dinner. My dad had frozen mid-chew, roast beef in suspension. Grandma looked like she was buffering. Aria's eyes were the size of coasters. Josiah had put down his fork like this just became way more interesting than the food. My mom, bless her optimistic soul, tried to salvage the moment with a brittle little, is everything okay with you too? And Emily, without missing a beat, without a flicker of awareness, smiled and said, oh, I'm just speaking generally about relationship dynamics. Generally. At my parents' anniversary dinner. About toxic men. And controlling behavior. While looking directly at me. The rest of dinner was probably the single most awkward hour of my life. And I've been to a silent yoga class with a pulled hamstring, so that's saying something. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew how to respond to the roast beef-fueled TED Talk Emily had just delivered. My mom kept valiantly trying to steer the conversation back to family topics. So Charles, how's the new job? But it was like trying to unburn a steak. The damage was done. Charles, for his part, kept glancing between me and Emily like he was watching a car accident in slow motion, wondering if it was too late to uninvite us from his life. Even my dad, who once negotiated a truce between two drunk uncles at a Christmas party with nothing but bourbon and a deck of Uno cards, looked completely out of his depth, just blinking into space like he was buffering. Then dessert came out, and Emily, because clearly this evening hadn't been surreal enough, suddenly snapped back into her America's sweetheart persona, all bubbly again, asking Grandma about her garden like she hadn't just torched my dignity with a flamethrower. Oh my gosh, have your orchids started blooming yet? She chirped. Then, turning to my mom with the grace of a well-practiced sociopath. This pie is amazing. Seriously, you have to give me the recipe. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there wondering if I imagined the part where she basically called me a possessive caveman in front of my entire family. The drive home? Dead silent. Not awkward silence. No, that would be merciful. This was the kind of silence that makes your own thoughts so loud you start worrying the car might explode from emotional tension. I must have glanced at her reflection in the side mirror 50 times. Just waiting, hoping, begging for her to say something. Anything. A grunt. A sigh. A sarcastic comment about my mom's Jell-O salad. Something. But nope. She just stared out the window like she was in an indie film montage about heartbreak. Except I was the only one confused, And she was the one with the sad soundtrack and main character energy. We pulled into the lot. She grabbed her purse and walked ahead like she hadn't just set fire to my family's collective opinion of me over mashed potatoes. I followed her up, unlocked the door, and we did this awkward little kitchen tango. She went straight for the fridge. Not to reflect. Not to apologize. Not even to explain. No, to put away her leftovers. Like that was the pressing issue right now. The cold broccoli medley needed saving. I finally snapped. What was that dinner speech supposed to accomplish? My voice cracked halfway through accomplish, but I didn't even care. I'd earned the dramatic tremble. She didn't even turn around. Just shrugged and opened the fridge like the answer was hiding behind the ketchup. Nothing. I was just making conversation. Making conversation? I said, incredulous. Right? Like telling my mom, dad, sister, and 78-year-old grandma that I basically don't let you breathe without my written permission is normal small talk. I mimed it like I was on a cooking show. Totally casual. Like, hey guys, pass the salt. Oh, and by the way, your son's basically a dictator in sweatpants. That's when I called her on it. Point blank. Just say it was about Roman, I said. Just admit that whole little speech was you trying to talk about him without saying his name. She finally turned around and rolled her eyes so hard I swear I heard them click. You're being paranoid, she snapped. Not everything's about you. Oh yeah, I said. Then why did every word of that speech sound like it was exactly about me? I could feel my voice rising, but I didn't stop. You can't just blast me at family dinner like that, and then pretend you're on some moral talk show about strong women and weak men. I told her the timing was just a little too perfect. How convenient that 2 days after I said I wasn't okay with her going to Cabo with Roman, she suddenly decided to give a live performance of Controlling Men, a spoken word experience in front of my entire family. She blinked at me like I was speaking Klingon. What are you even talking about? She said, voice full of faux confusion. That had nothing to do with Roman. Oh, right, I said. My bad. You just happened to go on a 10-minute rant about toxic masculinity, controlling men, and insecure boyfriends right after I told you I wasn't cool with you vacationing with a guy who used to whisper sweet nothings into your ears in the back of a BMW. She huffed and muttered. You need to get over your insecurities. Which is rich. Rich coming from the same person who reads my phone over my shoulder like she's decoding CIA messages every time I text a coworker about Q3 deliverables. She once asked me, with a straight face, who Steve from Tech was in my messages. Like I'm secretly sexting someone with a username that sounds like a malfunctioning printer. We just stood there, her leaning against the counter, arms crossed, looking like she was running a silent protest in our kitchen. Me? Trying to figure out how someone can look you dead in the eye and gaslight you into questioning reality you were present for. And the worst part? She didn't apologize. Not even a fake. I'm sorry you felt that way. No PR spin. No backpedal. She just stood there, waiting for me to let it go. Like I always do. Like she was confident I'd just roll over and move on, because that's been the pattern. Looking back, I think I finally saw it for what it was. She was trying to make me the bad guy, before doing something she knew was wrong. Classic manipulation playbook. Step 1. Paint your partner as controlling. Step 2. Act like the victim. Step 3. Do whatever shady thing you wanted to do anyway. And if they protest, well look, he's proving your point. Controlling again. It's genius, honestly. If your moral compass is a broken Etch-a-Sketch. But here's what really gets me. She was so good at it. I actually started doubting myself. That night, lying in the guest bed staring at the ceiling fan like it was going to blink back with answers, I started asking myself, am I being controlling? Am I being insecure? Do normal couples just high-five and pack a carry-on when their partner wants to go on a romantic vacation with their ex? That's how smooth she was with this crap. She had me questioning my own sanity over what should be a basic, default-level relationship expectation. Like I was suddenly the irrational one for not being cool with her sipping cocktails poolside with Roman, the tan real estate Ken doll. I went to sleep that night, alone, Emily still exiled to the guest room. Thinking, okay, that dinner was a disaster. Surely she saw how off the rails that went. That embarrassing both of us in front of my family gave her the kind of clarity a person only gets after being hit by a metaphorical bus made of social awkwardness and red flags. We didn't talk about Roman again. Thursday morning, I woke up around 7 a.m. I walked around and there was no one. I thought maybe she'd gone to work early, or maybe she was off doing that weird early morning yoga boot camp thing she started last month, where she comes home smelling like eucalyptus and self-righteousness. But something felt off. The apartment was too still. Like the calm right before a hurricane shows up and asks for iced coffee. I shuffled to the kitchen to make coffee and past the bedroom on my way to grab my hoodie, and that's when I noticed it. Her side of the closet. Not empty, but definitely lighter. Like someone had packed for a trip, strategically, trying not to make it obvious. You know, like when someone steals snacks from your pantry and rearranges everything to hide the evidence. Half her stuff was gone. A few hangers swaying like wind chimes of betrayal. Her overnight bag, the leopard print one she only takes on trips that involve bikinis and regret, was missing. Her favorite dresses were gone. The good makeup bag was missing too. You know, the one that weighs 5 pounds and could survive a nuclear blast. Her fancy sandals, the ones she always complains give her blisters, but mysteriously wears every time she wants to impress someone, also gone. I went into the bathroom, and it was the same story. Her stuff was still there, but not all there. Just enough missing to cover a long weekend. Shampoo? Gone. Toothbrush? Replaced with an old travel one. Her favorite perfume? Not in its usual spot. And suddenly, I'm playing forensic detective in my own apartment like I'm on an episode of CSI. Fiancé flees to Mexico. That's when it hit me like a punchline with no setup. The flight to Cabo was this morning. I grabbed my phone, half expecting a note, a text, something. I mean, we live together. You don't just ghost someone you pay rent with, right? But nope. No text. No call. No. Hey, I'm leaving you for a mojito and my ex with great abs. Not even a passive-aggressive sticky note on the fridge next to the almond milk she refuses to finish. Just vanished. Then around 11 a.m., my phone finally buzzed. I grabbed it like a man desperate for logic. Just landed in Cabo, weather's perfect already. Attached, a photo. A selfie. Of her and Roman. At what looked like the airport. Both wearing sunglasses indoors like they're starring in some discount Netflix rom-com. Grinning like idiots. Roman had his arm around her shoulders. She was leaning into him like they'd just renewed their vows at the gate next to Auntie Anne's Pretzels. I stared at that message for 10 straight minutes. Maybe more. Like if I focused hard enough, it would morph into something else. Anything else. Like, haha, just kidding. I'm on my way back and brought you tacos. But no, she'd actually done it. After everything. After that disaster of a dinner at my parents' house. After 5 years of being together. 6 months of being engaged. She snuck out at dawn and flew to Mexico with Roman. Then came the Instagram stories. Like a digital slap to the face. By noon she was posting like she was getting paid for it. First up, a slow-mo video of the sunset from their resort balcony. Then a boomerang of 2 fancy cocktails clinking by an infinity pool. Then, because of course, her and Roman at some beachside restaurant, laughing over ceviche and betrayal. A place so expensive the menus probably don't have prices. A place where the waiters judged you if you asked for tap water. A place that probably cost more for lunch than most people spend on groceries in a week. In every picture where Roman showed up, they looked way too comfortable. Like, we've already slept in the same hammock and have matching inside jokes, comfortable. His hand was always on her back. Casually, possessively. Like he was making sure the whole world knew she was back on Team Roman. She kept posting shots of them laughing together, tanned and glowing like they were filming the pilot of The Real Housewives of Emotional Cheating. I couldn't focus. Called in sick to work because no way I was hopping on a Zoom call to discuss Q3 performance while my fiancé played footsie with her ex 2,000 miles away. I spent most of Thursday on our couch, in my boxers, just refreshing her socials like an idiot watching a car crash in slow motion. Another post. Here's us at the beach. Another. Here's our amazing dinner. Another. Here's Roman being so funny while my actual fiancé rots in a cold apartment in socks. He hasn't changed since Wednesday. Every post felt like a sucker punch, except I wasn't even in the ring. I was the sad guy selling popcorn outside the arena he paid to get humiliated in. By Thursday afternoon, I wasn't even heartbroken anymore. No, I'd entered this weird trifecta of emotion. First rage. Like, pure, chest-burning fury that she bailed on our relationship like it was a bad lease to go sip cocktails with the human embodiment of a spray tan. Second hurt. Not even gonna lie. This was supposed to be my forever person. The woman I was gonna marry. Raise kids with. Watch trashy TV with. And she just dipped for her ex like I was a trial subscription that expired. Third cold logic. And this is where the switch flipped. Because suddenly, I saw it. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't a last-minute, emotionally confused, tequila-fueled mistake. This was planned. She had booked the flight days ago. Packed strategically so I wouldn't notice. Kept laughing at texts from work when she was probably confirming poolside reservations with Roman. The toxic masculinity monologue at my parents' house? That wasn't some off-the-cuff moral reflection. That was her alibi. Her little pre-vacation press conference. She'd set the whole thing up. Set the alarm. Snuck out while I was sleeping. Probably kissed the dog goodbye on her way out, too. This wasn't an accident. This was betrayal on an itinerary. And the part that sealed it? She didn't even have the guts to tell me to my face. The woman I was going to marry ghosted me with a tropical emoji and a picture of her ex in airport Ray-Bans. Then around 6 p.m., my phone buzzed. Emily. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity? Yeah, that's still a thing. I picked up. Her voice was all fake calm and defensive. Look, I know you're upset, but this isn't what you think. Oh really? I said. Because it looks exactly like what I think. You're on a couple's vacation with your ex, in a suite, while your fiancé's eating cereal for dinner. Did I miss something? We're just friends, she insisted. It's just a vacation. I laughed. Oh, just a little friendly trip to paradise with the guy who used to see you naked? Cute. Don't be like this, she snapped. You're being paranoid again. There it was. The greatest hit. Right? Paranoid. Because normal couples totally do this. You're absolutely right, Emily. You should take more romantic vacations with guys you've had sex with. I'll send you a list of exes. Let me know which beach you want next. And I hung up. She called back twice. Straight to voicemail. I didn't even blink. Didn't care. Whatever she had to say could stay in Cabo with her integrity and Roman's smug grin. Thursday evening, I started doing something I probably should have done months ago. Maybe even years if we're being brutally honest. I started actually looking at our relationship. Not through the rose-tinted glasses labeled, she's just independent. Or, that's just how she is. But with clear, 2020, she's a selfish mess in eyeliner vision. And man, once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. All the times she dismissed my concerns like I was some paranoid control freak. All the times I tried to talk to her like an adult and got hit with a verbal dodgeball of deflection and condescension. Take the Jake situation. Remember Jake? The coworker who just happened to text her at 11:47 p.m. every night with funny memes and work updates. I brought it up once. Just said, hey, it's kind of weird that he texts you so late. Maybe ask him to chill? And instead of, I don't know, setting a basic boundary like a functioning adult, she spun it back on me. You're being insecure, she said. You're acting possessive. It's just Jake. Yeah, and I'm just your fiancé, but thanks for the input. Or when she'd make plans with friends without even checking if we had something going on. And when I'd gently point out, hey, remember we talked about seeing that movie tonight? She'd act like I was ruining her vibe. Like me remembering our plans was some kind of emotional hostage tactic. I spent so long telling myself she was just strong-willed or independent. No, Carter. She wasn't strong-willed. She was selfish. Textbook. Capital S. Wrote the book. Got it published. Signed copies available. She did what she wanted. When she wanted. And expected me to smile and clap like a damn seal because I loved her. The Cabo thing? That wasn't some shocking betrayal. That was the logical conclusion of a pattern I'd been excusing for 5 years. This was the season finale, but the warning signs had been in every episode. And I was too busy defending her to realize I was dating someone who'd absolutely hit the iceberg and still argue the Titanic was just expressing its independence. Then Friday morning came. I woke up, made coffee, didn't even flinch when I saw more Instagram stories because at that point I was practically numb, emotionally vaccinated. There they were, her and Roman, doing some couples massage thing at the resort spa. Matching robes, with cucumbers on their eyes and that smug, relaxed glow of two people who definitely didn't just abandon their significant others for a mid-tier spa package. The caption? Treat yourself to the good life. Hashtag self-care, hashtag blessed, hashtag couple goals. Couple goals. While engaged to me. That's when it hit me like a champagne cork to the ego. She wasn't just disrespecting our relationship. She was flaunting it. Posting this mess publicly. Where all our friends, mutuals, her mom, and probably the barista at our local coffee shop could see it. She wanted this to be seen. She wanted me to see it. Maybe she thought I'd get jealous and come storming down to Cabo in a rom-com style sprint through the airport. Or maybe, more likely, she just didn't give a flaming shit how it looked. Either way, it told me exactly where I stood. And spoiler alert, it wasn't next to her on the beach. That's when I made a decision. Friday afternoon. A decision that probably saved my sanity. And definitely saved my future. Instead of sitting around like a sad Victorian widow waiting for Emily to come back and grace me with some big dramatic monologue about what this all meant, I decided I was done. No more waiting. No more hoping she'd come to her senses. If Emily wanted to act like she was single, great. I was going to help her out. Roll out the red carpet. Pack her emotional baggage. Hell, I'd even write her a glowing Yelp review. Would not recommend as a life partner, but good BJs. But before I could officially evict her from my heart and apartment, I needed to figure out exactly what I was dealing with. Because something told me this was no longer just a my fiancé is sunbathing with her ex problem. No, this had the distinct stench of financial nonsense. Maybe even legal nonsense. And boy was I right. The next morning, I'm sitting in my apartment, still in my sweats, drinking coffee that tasted more like betrayal than caffeine, when my phone rings around 9 a.m. Caller ID says, Gianna, Finance Department. Now, I've maybe spoken to Gianna twice in the 3 years I've worked at my company. Once to confirm my reimbursement form didn't vanish into a black hole, and once in line at the Christmas party bar when we both awkwardly waited for drinks like we weren't standing under a paper snowflake that said, Financial Year-End Cheers. Hey Carter, she says. So right away, I know I'm about to be emotionally audited. Sorry to bother you, she continues, but we're doing our quarterly audit of corporate card expenses, and I just had a few questions about some charges on your account. At first I'm thinking, okay, no big deal. Maybe I forgot to upload a receipt for that lunch with a client who didn't actually show up, but I still ate because I'm not insane. But her tone? Her tone had that polite HR legal hybrid energy, like she was trying to stay professional while quietly screaming inside. Can you walk me through some of these business meal charges from the past few months? She says. Some of them seem unusual. That's when my stomach dropped like Emily's loyalty. Because about a year ago, when Emily's job went sideways and her hours got cut, I'd added her as an authorized user on my corporate credit card. I know. Trust me, I hear the universe laughing, too. It was supposed to be for emergencies only. Like, I'm stranded and I need gas emergencies. Maybe the occasional lunch if she was meeting with potential marketing clients. I figured, hey, we're a team, right? She networks, lands a few freelance gigs, we both win. Apparently, that was a massive mistake on par with giving a raccoon your debit card and telling it to be responsible. Because Gianna starts reading off the charges like she's narrating my descent into financial hell. $3,200 over 4 months. Spa treatments at places that sound like Bond villain lairs. Dinners at restaurants I've never been to. Places that require reservations and a net worth. Shopping trips to boutiques with names I can't pronounce, but I can see the receipts. All marked in the system as client meetings or business development. You know, because buying designer heels is clearly essential to landing a hypothetical client who sells aromatherapy candles on Etsy. The worst part? Half of these charges matched perfectly with her Instagram posts. That brunch photo where she and her friends were drinking champagne and doing that cheers with the camera thing like they just closed a real estate deal, charged to my company as a client lunch. The day spa where she posted a story of her getting wrapped in seaweed for her birthday detox. Filed as a business wellness treatment. Those designer stilettos she showed off with the caption #BossBabeEnergy, apparently bought to help boost client engagement. I guess nothing says networking like $800 shoes and lying through your teeth. Gianna was trying so hard to be professional, but I could hear it. The hesitation. The tiny pause before she said spa. The soft, corporate way of saying, are you embezzling, or are you just dating someone who thinks Sephora is a deductible business strategy? Technically, I had used company money for personal expenses, just not knowingly. She explained, very calmly, might I add, that the finance team had flagged my account because, shocker, the spending pattern didn't match my usual business activity. Apparently, buying $300 seaweed facials and $800 heels doesn't exactly scream Q2 pipeline growth. And some of the vendor categories, Gianna said, with all the chill of someone who's seen this kind of financial dumpster fire before, are way outside the range of normal business expenses. No kidding. The company requires us to investigate any unusual spending patterns, she went on. Can you provide receipts and documentation showing these were legitimate business expenses? Yeah, I'll need to check my records and get back to you, I said, sounding a lot more confident than I felt. Because inside, I was absolutely freaking out. Like, yes, my fiancé had just ditched me for her ex, but now I was also staring down the barrel of corporate fraud because I made the world's dumbest decision to give her access to my work credit card. I hung up with Gianna and immediately started digging through my emails, texts, Slack messages, anything that could even remotely resemble documentation. Found a few texts from Emily. Grabbing lunch with a potential lead. Charging it to the biz card. Hope that's okay. Networking event tonight. Might expense dinner if I meet anyone useful. Spa day with a client who owns a boutique. Tax write-off? LOL. LOL indeed. But none of it would hold up under even the lightest scrutiny. There were no business cards. No emails confirming meetings. No contracts. No follow-up. Just vague client mentions and photos of her martinis and manicures on Instagram. The deeper I went, the more it all unraveled like a poorly sewn Forever 21 sweater. That $300 spa day. Not a networking event. It was her monthly girls' day with her sister and 2 friends named probably Tiffany and Regret. That $150 steakhouse dinner she claimed was with a startup founder. Yeah, turns out that was her birthday party. The one I wasn't even invited to because she just wanted to keep it low-key with the girls. Spoiler, Roman was there. Of course he was. She had been living off my company's money, like a criminal who doesn't even try to hide the evidence. Meanwhile, she told me she was trying to drum up freelance marketing gigs. Right. Apparently, marketing now includes mimosas, massages, and misappropriation of funds. The worst part? How casual she was about it. Like using someone else's corporate credit card to buy a $400 handbag was just something everyone does between Target runs and betrayal. At that point, I was done. I called Gianna back and told her I needed to report potential unauthorized use of my corporate card. Without missing a beat, she connected me with legal. 10 minutes later, I'm talking to someone named Mark who has the kind of voice that makes you feel like your entire life is about to be notarized. He schedules a meeting for Monday morning and sends me a neat little packet titled Fraudulent Card Use, Initial Report Forms. Oh, and instructions on how to file a police report. Because apparently, when your fiancé treats your company's card like her own personal debit account, that's not just rude, that's a felony. So yeah, I got to spend the weekend curled up on the couch with a cup of coffee, a criminal complaint form, and the warm realization that I was about to turn in my own fiancé for fraud. Part of me felt guilty, like maybe I should give her a chance to explain, or pay the money back, or teleport into the past and make better choices. But then I'd refresh Instagram, and boom, another photo. Her and Roman on some rooftop patio at sunset. Him shirtless, obviously. Her holding a coconut drink with a flower in it, captioned, "Living my best life." Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm over here living my best liability, dealing with the legal consequences of her stealing. Friday afternoon, I called up my buddy Cooper, the human equivalent of a golden retriever in steel-toed boots. Cooper owns a moving company. We went to college together, and he's the kind of guy who'd help you hide a body as long as you brought beer and didn't ask too many questions. "Coop," I said, "I need a favor. Like a big one. I'll pay whatever it takes, weekend service." He didn't even blink. "What's the situation?" "I need to move fast. Like, everything packed and out by Sunday." There was a pause, followed by, one of those situations. Didn't ask more. Didn't need to. Just said he could have a truck and 2 guys available by Saturday morning, and we'd figure out the rest later. God bless Cooper. Now here's the thing I hadn't fully appreciated until this exact moment. The apartment we lived in? Yeah, both our names were on the lease. But guess who'd been paying 100% of the rent for the past 8 months? That's right. Daddy Warbucks over here. Not just rent either. Utilities, groceries, Wi-Fi, Netflix, toilet paper, emotional labor. All me. Emily's contribution lately had been limited to aggressively oversalting the popcorn and liking inspirational quotes from wellness influencers on Instagram. So even though we were equal tenants on paper, in reality she'd been riding the Carter Express for months. No ticket, first class, champagne optional. And that's when I got the idea. Instead of some petty standoff over who gets to keep the apartment, I was going to make the cleanest power move imaginable. Leave. Leave her there with the lease, the bills, the echoes of her own bad decisions, and nothing else. Friday evening I started going through the apartment, mentally dividing assets like a passive-aggressive Marie Kondo. Turns out, 90% of what we owned was me. The TV? Mine. The couch she posted thirst traps on? Mine. The bed she wasn't sleeping in anymore? Mine. Kitchen stuff? Every pan, spatula, and blender? Mine. Even the toaster she burned her wellness bread in? Mine. The only things she really brought to the table were her clothes, a velvet throw pillow, and a print that said live, laugh, love, which, at this point, felt like a threat. So here was the plan. Pack up everything that was mine. Move it to a new place. Leave Emily with 4 walls, an empty fridge, a motivational quote, and a call center paycheck to keep it all warm. No drama. No yelling. No how could you speeches. Just me quietly pulling the plug on this toxic reality show and walking off set like a man who's had enough of being the chump. Saturday morning, I found a furnished, month-to-month apartment across town. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, a couch that didn't reek of betrayal. The best part? Available immediately. I signed the lease, got the keys, and by noon, I was standing in my new place holding a coffee and a renewed sense of clarity. I was officially ready to execute my plan. By Saturday afternoon, I was feeling something I hadn't felt in days. Control. Real, delicious, alpha-level control. Like I'd just ripped the remote back from the universe and said, no more reruns of Getting Screwed by Emily. We're watching Carter's Revenge Tour 2025 now. Instead of sitting around like some mopey doormat, waiting for Emily to come back with a tequila tan and an excuse about rediscovering herself, I was finally doing something. She wanted to act like she was single? Perfect. I was about to help her feel single, in ways she wasn't even emotionally prepared for. Saturday started early. Cooper showed up at 8 a.m. sharp with his moving truck and two guys who looked like they bench press heartbreak for fun. I'd spent Friday night boxing up my stuff like a man on a mission. Everything I owned was in neat little sharp labeled boxes. Kitchen stuff, mine. Living room, also mine. Dignity, back where it belongs. Our first stop? The bank. And let me tell you, that was one of the most satisfying conversations of my adult life. I walked in when they opened, sat down across from a perky customer service rep named Melissa, and said, "Hi, I'd like to remove an authorized user from all of my accounts. Her name's Emily, and that bitch is officially dead to me." Okay, I didn't say that last part out loud, but I said it with my energy. 30 minutes later, she was off everything. Checking, savings, both credit cards, gone. Then I kept going. Took her off my car insurance. Canceled her line from my phone plan. Even logged into the Netflix and Spotify accounts and changed the passwords so fast, I'm pretty sure her phone cried out in pain. While I was liberating my finances, Cooper and his guys were at the apartment, loading up my life into the truck like efficiency gods. By noon, it was done. The place went from shared home to staged crime scene in 3 hours flat. It looked like the set of a real estate listing that reads, "Charming urban space, haunted by poor choices." Cooper leaned against the truck, wiping sweat from his brow. "You sure about this, man? She's gonna lose her mind when she gets back." "That's the point," I said, tossing another box in. He blinked. "You're really not going to give her any warning?" "Oh, you mean like how she didn't give me any warning when she snuck off to Mexico with her ex?" That shut him up real quick. Dude just nodded and started strapping boxes like he was afraid I'd unfriend him next. Saturday afternoon, I headed back to the now echoing apartment to finish the utilities takedown. Called the electric company. Cancel it. Gas, gone. Internet provider, bye-bye. Every single one asked the same thing. "Would you like to transfer the account to another tenant at the address?" "Nope. Just cancel it. Cut it all off. Let the darkness match the vibe." "Sir, that will leave the apartment without power or internet," one rep warned. "Are you sure the other tenant doesn't want to take over the accounts?" "Not my problem," I said, sipping my coffee like a man who'd finally decided peace politeness. By 6 p.m., the apartment had officially become a bougie tomb. No electricity, no gas, no Wi-Fi, no TV. Just Emily's throw pillows, her broken promises, and the cold silence of a life she couldn't afford without me. And yes, before leaving I peed on them. In fact, I asked all the moving guys to pee on them. And then there was the lease. Both our names were on it, sure. But guess who'd been paying every month for the last 8? This guy? Legally, we were equals. Practically, I was the only one keeping us from getting evicted. Monday morning, I walked into the company's legal department like a man walking into court with receipts, and I mean that literally. Folder under one arm, coffee in the other, freshly showered in my new apartment, which didn't reek of betrayal and failed promises. I even wore the shirt Emily used to call my tech bro interview look, because today I was dressed for justice. The legal team was already waiting. 3 of them, business suits, serious faces. The head of legal, Diane, nodded at me like I'd just walked into a high-stakes poker game with 4 aces. "Carter," she said. "Diane," I replied, feeling like I should have brought theme music. I handed over the folder like I was submitting an Oscar-winning screenplay titled, "How My Fiancé Screwed Me and Also Committed Corporate Fraud." They flipped through it while I talked them through each charge. "Here's the brunch she labeled as a client meeting. That's her and her sister with mimosas, not exactly a boardroom. Here's the spa day she said was a wellness networking session. And here's the matching Instagram story where she tagged it #selfcarequeens. Here's the steakhouse birthday dinner. Caption, 'My man spoils me.' And guess who my man wasn't? This guy. I didn't even have to embellish. Her social media was doing all the prosecution's work." Diane raised an eyebrow, flipping through the screenshots. "She posted all this publicly?" "Oh yeah," I said, sipping my coffee. "She practically live-streamed the embezzlement." One of the other attorneys, a guy named Mark who looked like he hadn't smiled since Y2K, actually let out a low whistle. They went line by line through the fraudulent charges. Every single one processed as a business expense. All of them tagged with fake client codes, like she was running a fake company from our couch. I'd authorized emergency use. What she did was the corporate version of setting a building on fire and then roasting marshmallows on the ashes. Diane looked up over her glasses. "This isn't a misunderstanding. This is clear, deliberate fraud." "Yep," I nodded. "She was stealing from the company and me, and documenting the whole thing like it was her travel blog." That's when Diane said it, like she was ordering lunch. "We'll have the warrant ready when she gets back." I sat back in the chair, folded my hands, and said the only thing I could think of. She thought being an authorized user meant she could run a Ponzi scheme with my boss's money. Turns out, The only thing she's authorized for now is supervised visitation with her credit score. By Sunday evening, around 6 p.m., I was at home making dinner, alone, relaxed, and in a fully functioning apartment with power, internet, and absolutely zero liars, when my phone started having what can only be described as a full-blown nervous breakdown. I turned it off for most of the weekend. Honestly, I just didn't feel like being haunted by ghostly text bubbles from someone sipping margaritas with her ex. But I figured it was time to check in. Turned it on. Boom. 67 missed calls. 80+ texts. It was like my phone had been cosplaying as a bomb threat. I didn't even open them right away. I just stood there stirring my pasta like, oh, so now it's urgent. The progression of messages was textbook chaos. Confusion. Hey, are you okay? Something's wrong with the apartment. Why isn't the Wi-Fi working? Panic. The power's out. Half our stuff is gone. Where are you? Meltdown. Please call me. I can't afford this place by myself. I don't know what to do. One message just said, WTF is happening, Carter? Ah, yes. The caps lock stage. A classic. And then the kicker, text from Jenny, her sister. Emily's at my place crying. What the hell is going on? I didn't answer right away. I gave it a couple hours. Ate dinner. Did the dishes. Took a shower. Enjoyed my peaceful, Roman-free life. Around 8 p.m., I called Jenny back. She answered in full crisis mode. Carter, what happened? Emily came home and freaked out. She said you moved out while she was gone? That the apartment's empty? She's sobbing. What is going on? I was calm. Like dangerously calm. Yeah, we broke up. I moved out while she was in Cabo. Silence. A long one. Then Jenny, very cautiously. Cabo. Oh, so that's when things got spicy. I asked. Wait, you didn't know she went to Cabo with Roman? She was posting all of that shit on her social media. Her breath caught like I'd just whispered a curse word in church. Roman. Her ex-Roman. Yep, I said, popping the P. The guy she dated for 3 years before me. Tall, smug, drives a BMW. Looks like a guy who tells waiters he knows the owner. She told us it was a work retreat. Yeah, she told me it was a friendly vacation, then said I was controlling for not being okay with it. So I ended the engagement, packed up my stuff, and gave her the adult freedom she clearly wanted. Jenny went silent again, like she was buffering. She said it was for work, she muttered. She said it was a networking retreat. She showed us the resort brochure like it was a company event. I chuckled. Yeah, well, tell your sister she might want to rebrand it as a career-limiting getaway, because she lied to you, she lied to me, and she lied to everyone about what the trip really was. By 10 p.m. Sunday night, while Emily was still camped out at Jenny's place trying to figure out what the hell just happened to her IKEA-furnished kingdom of lies, Karma decided to make a surprise guest appearance, wearing a badge. Right on cue, the cops showed up at the apartment with an arrest warrant. Apparently, she had just been mid-rant about how I overreacted by moving out when, knock knock, the universe said, oh, honey, you thought that was the climax? Jenny called me around 10:30, voice in full DEFCON 1 panic mode. Carter, they arrested her. Like with actual handcuffs. What did she even do? I leaned back on my couch, sipping a beer like it was the final scene of a movie I already knew the ending to. She committed fraud, Jenny, I said calmly. Used my corporate card for $3,200 worth of spa days, lobster dinners, and overpriced shoes. All while telling my company they were client meetings. And she documented the whole thing on Instagram like a true criminal mastermind. There was a pause. Then Jenny whispered, I thought you were paying for all that stuff. I thought so too, I said. Turns out I was just financing the Real Housewives of freelance marketing. The next day, I saw her mugshot online. That was surreal. Like, imagine scrolling through your local news and boom. There's your ex-fiancé looking like she just found out Sephora doesn't take store credit for bail. The caption under her mugshot read, Local woman arrested for corporate credit card fraud involving over $3,000 in unauthorized charges. Local woman. That was it. Not marketing professional or brilliant businesswoman. Just local woman. That's when it hit me. She wasn't a queen. She was a Groupon grifter with Wi-Fi. She made bail Tuesday morning, but by then the damage was already nuclear. Her job fired her immediately. Something about client trust and not wanting a felon in the Slack channel. And Roman? He went full magician, disappeared. Apparently, his company wasn't super thrilled that their top sales bro had taken a romantic getaway with someone who'd just been arrested for fraud. Turns out, Cabo with a criminal doesn't look great on a quarterly report. Emily ended up pleading guilty to avoid jail time. Had to pay full restitution and fines. Her credit tanked harder than Blockbuster stock. She couldn't land any decent job with a fraud conviction on her record and eventually moved back in with her parents, 3 hours away. Meanwhile, I got promoted. Yeah, My company was so impressed with how I handled the situation, filing reports, protecting corporate assets, not being a complete idiot with a company card. They bumped me up, gave me a raise, a bigger office, less stress. Turns out I'm actually really good at my job when I'm not constantly wondering if my fiancé is charging Prosecco to a client who doesn't exist. Last I heard, Emily was working in a call center and posting Instagram stories about toxic exes and learning to trust again. Sure, whatever helps her sleep at night. Roman got engaged 6 months after Cabo to someone else. Funny how that worked out. And me? I'm good, really good. I don't even feel angry anymore. 5 years felt like forever when I was in it, like I'd invested my whole life. But now, with a little distance, I can see it clearly. I can see all the red flags I ignored. The way she'd gaslight me, dismiss my concerns, make me feel like I was asking too much for expecting basic loyalty. How she always made me feel like I was the one with the problem. She showed me exactly who she was. And I finally had the sense to believe. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.